Got it. So you're saying Diddy's an FBI informant, and he's been one for many years.
That's what they say. Nothing ever happens, but it's still, like I say, hey.
Suge Knight says Diddy's prison nightmare has only begun, and that the man once untouchable in Hollywood is now just another snitch who got burned. That's how we start, because that's how Suge put it. Diddy, the chart-topping mogul, the bad boy ringmaster, is no longer sitting atop the world of LA mansions and red carpets. He's sitting in a cell. And not just any cell, but the kind of cell Suge Knight knows intimately, the kind with doors that slam for good. What Suge just dropped from his own prison phone with that old-school mix of bravado and venom isn't just another diss track. He's accusing Diddy, flat out, of being a long-time FBI asset, leaking on artists and accomplices all over Hollywood, cutting deals with the suits while his public begged for his redemption. It's the kind of claim that 10 years ago would have sounded like something out of late-night conspiracy radio. Today, it's dragging everyone, from studio execs to faded rappers, right back into the mud.
There was a lot of stuff that came out in the trial that the judge knew about it, so the judge couldn't just let him walk out of there with nothing. But the judge knew, listen here, bro. The judge gave him, not gave him, but let him off.
We're not watching a musical feud anymore. We're watching the collapse of an era in real time. Suge's statement landed just days after Judge Arun Subramanian handed Diddy a 50-month sentence for violating the Mann Act, capping off a trial where almost every detail, every sob story, and every grainy courtroom video made national news. Suge's words echoed across the internet. Anybody else would have been cooked. Not just a taunt, but a reminder. Diddy got 4 years. Prosecutors wanted at least 11. Suge says that's not luck. That's the government showing its hand and showing Diddy a lifeline nobody else could ever touch. Instantly, we see the split. In hip-hop, half the camp is calling Suge bitter, the other half is leaning in, wondering what he knows. Even Diddy's harshest critics have to admit there's something odd about how the sentence played out. Why was this the first time, as Suge mocked, that a man facing federal time could stage what looked like a presidential campaign for sympathy inside the courtroom? Why did we get courtroom footage of Diddy hugging his kids, offering up apologies, and breaking down while his old partners, the same faces from Platinum Records and Wild Nights, stayed home? Suge didn't waste the moment. He called the mercy plea a performance. He joked that all Diddy needed was a DJ to start playing and it would have turned into a dance party. Suge says the real reason for Diddy's soft landing isn't transformation. It's paperwork and government, friends.
So here's what I thought he was going to say. Your Honor, and he does his whole apology and remorse and all of that, and he does it all. And then at the end, he says this. Your Honor, respectfully, I would like to say that I now understand what President Trump was saying when he said that the Justice Department was weaponized against him.
Meanwhile, the real numbers tell their own story. Diddy was hit with 2 counts of transporting women for illicit activities across state lines. The Mann Act is a 100-year-old law, but it's been dusted off lately for only the most public, the most headline-making targets. Prosecutors argued for more than a decade behind bars. Diddy's lawyers countered that he was a changed man, reformed by 13 months in a New York cell before his conviction. The defense played a video montage of Diddy's family moments and charity work. The judge listened to his children, some sobbing, one calling him a changed man. By the time Subramanian handed down the sentence, just over 4 years with credit for time served, the press was already asking how he walked away with what might be less than 3 years left. But the public wasn't buying the fairy tale. Suge pointed out what nobody wanted to say out loud. All that emotion, all that talk of redemption, and still not a single former partner showed up for Diddy. No star-studded parade, just letters from 2 women asking for mercy. It's the quiet that's making the loudest noise. Insiders say many in the industry are terrified to go near the trial. Suge claims it's not fear of Diddy's crew, it's fear of the people in the suites, the ones who write checks, sign NDAs, and keep scandals buried. We know bad boy artists, past and present, have gone radio silent. Suge, never one to miss a shot, said plainly that everyone is so scared because they know what kind of game is really being played. So if Diddy cut a deal with the FBI, what did it buy him? Not much of the luxury he's used to. His current address is the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. To call it a rough transition from mansion life would be an understatement. This is the same federal lockup that's been described as hell on earth, where headlines have detailed everything from maggot-infested meals to staff shortages so severe inmates don't always get showers. Diddy's lawyer told a court the mogul now wakes up every morning on a steel bed under a thin mattress with no pillow, staring at the stained walls of an 8x10 cell. Sources close to the case say he's lost weight, gone gray, and the shock of captivity is finally settling in. It's not just the lack of lobster dinners or private jets, it's the violence.
Are you concerned that Sean Diddy Combs could be assaulted, violently assaulted? Is that a thing? Because based on what was said in court, it feels like a thing.
June 2024, Uriel White, 37, stabbed to his tragic end in the jail. July, Edwin Cordero, 36, passes away after a brawl. Federal authorities say these are rare tragedies, but every week there's a new rumor about fights, extortion, and substances smuggled in by staff. Diddy is supposed to have some extra protection, locked in a special housing unit, but all that means is even less contact with the outside world. The press has reported that even in the more protected dorms, the infamous 4 North, there's no real privacy, just 20 high-profile inmates, air hockey tables, and communal showers with thin curtains. The lights go on at 6 a.m. The food is whatever you can scrape together from the bread and powdered potatoes. Attorneys have gone public saying the maggots are back in the food, though the Bureau of Prisons denies it with a straight face.
Judge who this job was a upgrade. He took a massive pay cut. He was an accomplished litigator. He has a pedigree that most law students would envy. And he's a very, very brilliant man. And
if you believe Suge Knight, none of this is an accident. He says the feds protect who they use. The idea is simple. If Diddy helped the government, they kept him off Rikers or one of the more brutal penitentiaries. But mercy from the system doesn't buy you mercy from other inmates. That's the nightmare, Suge says, is only beginning. Once word gets around, and Suge claims it already has, that Diddy has been leaking data for years, naming names, giving up industry secrets, that's a price he's going to pay every day, surrounded by men with nothing left to lose. Industry sources say everyone inside is whispering about the list. If the leaks are real, no one in the music business is safe. Meanwhile, outside those walls, the ripples are spreading. Usher and Russell Simmons have been quoted as hoping for Diddy's return. Others, like Al B. Sure, are reportedly ready to talk if they get immunity. Rumors have circled that Jay-Z and Beyonce, who've been the subject of their own secret society theories, are watching the case closely. There's chatter that some high-ranking names could be implicated if federal investigators push deeper into Hollywood's shadow economy. When Diddy's son, King Combs, appeared wearing sweatpants with the Illuminati symbol, the internet exploded, not just with jokes, but with real anxiety. Insiders tell us the old Illuminati conspiracy has a new life now that raids on Diddy's properties have turned up ledgers, private videos, and evidence of coded transactions.
Same kind of extortion that we heard when Cassie took the stand and testified on that airplane ride back from France. Diddy said, you don't do a freak off, I'm going to release one of the freak off videos that you are profiled in and humiliate.
But even with all the whispers, no one can answer the big question. Did Diddy really hand over the keys to the kingdom? Or is he just the fall guy for a system that wanted a big scalp on the wall? His legal team insists he's not guilty of the worst crimes. Racketeering and trafficking charges didn't stick, only the Mann Act counts made it through. Yet prosecutors argued he'd run a criminal enterprise behind the scenes, coercing women, orchestrating freak-off gatherings, and silencing witnesses with threats and payoffs. Victims took the stand describing blackmail, violence, and a life ruled by fear. Cassie Ventura's testimony in particular rattled the courtroom. She said Diddy filmed encounters as blackmail, threatened to leak footage, and used his many resources to control everyone around him. The judge called it subjugation, not just a bad romance gone wrong. He told Diddy point blank that charity work and devotion to family can't erase years of manipulation. The split verdict, guilty on 2 counts, acquitted on 3, left almost nobody satisfied. Prosecutors still call Diddy a danger who poses a risk at any age. Defense lawyers keep painting him as a man ruined by untreated trauma and substance addiction trying to rebuild. But in the court of public opinion, especially the world Suge Knight helped build, there's no forgiveness for a snitch, especially not one who might have been feeding the FBI stories for years.
He did a whole lot to a whole lot of people, and now he's paying for it. So all these cats, I guess y'all get y'all visitation rights. Some of y'all can get y'all conjugal visits right with them. I don't give a.
Now, as Diddy sits in a cell that's famous for breaking the most notorious high rollers, the danger isn't just from the system, but from the people it can't control. Suge Knight's message, delivered from his own cell, feels less like gossip and more like a warning. If Diddy got a life sentence because he gave up Hollywood's secrets, that's a curse, not a blessing. Because in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, mercy from a judge is the same thing as a target on your back. We're hearing from insiders that Diddy's already found himself eclipsed by more infamous inmates, like Luigi Mangione, the accused United Healthcare CEO shooter, who's apparently drawn more attention from the prison's population. Diddy's star power, once enough to get any door opened, is now just another liability. And if Suge Knight's right, the real punishment hasn't even started. Suge Knight didn't just question Diddy's sentence. He hinted at a trail stretching back decades. When Suge talks about courtroom mercy, what he's really doing is turning back the clock, all the way to the East versus West Coast wars that wrote the darkest chapters in hip-hop history. Shakur gone in a hail of bullets, Biggie soon after, and every fan forced to pick a side while headlines splashed with names like Bad Boy Records, Death Row, and that ever-present whiff of law enforcement watching from the wings. Suge alleges, not for the first time, that the feds have had their eye on Diddy since the 90s. According to longtime industry sources, Diddy's clean landings and well-timed escapes have always had more to do with courtroom handshakes than luck. The rivalry wasn't just about hits and record sales, it was about control, secrets, and survival in a business where friends become witnesses overnight.
I lost. I lost my freedom behind Tupac dying. I lost business. I lost house, a whole lot of shit.
We can't ignore that Suge's own saga is tied to every one of these battles. His phone calls from California State Prison still manage to rattle the walls of pop culture. When he tells us Diddy has strong ties with the government, that phrase hangs in the air. Loaded. Prosecutors and defense lawyers both danced around it in court, but Suge just tosses it like a grenade. Insiders claim Diddy's reputation for coming out clean has been bought and paid for, not just in courtrooms, but in back rooms, studios, and late-night meetings with agency men whose job descriptions no one ever gets to read. The big question, was Diddy cooperating all along? Keeps crawling back into the daylight, stubborn as the mold in those infamous prison showers. Inside the Metropolitan Detention Center, Diddy isn't surrounded by platinum plaques anymore. He's one out of 1,121 inmates, stripped of his designer sweats, facing the same grimy 8x10 cell as every fallen mogul before him. The MDC is the holding tank where R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sam Bankman-Fried all saw their power shrink to a plastic wristband and a tray of white bread. Defense lawyers grumbled to the press about filthy showers, food hoarding, powdered potatoes, and sanitation that makes tabloid headlines every few weeks. It's become a running joke among the staff. Nobody's a superstar here, and the menu is the same for everyone, whether you once hosted yacht parties or spent your life ducking the subway turnstiles. Diddy's complaints about his living conditions made their way to the Bureau of Prisons, who responded with a statement as cold as the beans served in the cafeteria. The official line is that every meal is safe, every inspection thorough, but we've seen the leaked photos and heard from attorneys who say the food is often crawling, the air is sour, and the guards are more likely to ignore a fight than break it up. For Diddy, who once threw all-white parties in Miami and drank only the finest, this is cosmic justice, as Suge puts it. Allegedly, the man who sold out his circle now shares showers and bread with the kind of men who hate informants on principle. And if the whispers about federal protection are true, he's running out of people left to protect him.
Hey, that boy life is dangerous. His life isn't, he's just not dangerous with the they said he's doing, but he's in danger. He knows too much.
Rumors are currency in places like MDC Brooklyn. We keep hearing from former guards and lawyers that Diddy's presence sparks a daily guessing game. Is he really locked down for good, or just passing through on the government's business? The other inmates know what snitches look like. They see who gets extra phone time, who sits alone, who receives envelopes nobody else ever touches. Suge's barb, that the feds protect who they use, sounds less like paranoia and more like a warning passed through prison grapevines, the same way bets on upcoming fights or news of a high-profile arrival travels cell to cell. The conspiracy layer never really left Diddy's orbit. With the trial of Dwayne Keffy D. Davis looming, the old allegations about Diddy's role in Shakur's tragedy have come roaring back. Davis, himself facing life behind bars, told authorities and wrote in his own memoir that Diddy once offered money to settle old scores. The police files mentioned $1 million, meetings at Hollywood delis, and a list of names that never made it into any official press release. Nobody's proven a thing, but when Suge Knight says the same agencies Diddy called for help may have been listening to him for years, we have to ask, who was really protecting who? Industry veterans insist the walls have always had ears, and the more noise Diddy made in the spotlight, the more careful he became behind closed doors.
Keefy D said he told Rat James that, look, it's big money in this. Only thing Puffy want to do is pay $1 million to have both of them. He told me that.
Fast forward to the present. News outlets tracking Diddy's decline paint a picture that's as grim as any tabloid fever dream. A once unstoppable mogul now appears in court, thin, hollow-eyed, and with streaks of gray overtaking the old signature look. Reporters note his sudden weight loss, a different kind of hunger setting in, and a posture that shifted from arrogance to exhaustion. His lawyers claim it's the toll of confinement. Detractors say it's the collapse of a carefully guarded empire, stripped bare by testimony, federal charges, and the ghosts of 1,000 silenced secrets. We see the headlines: another bail request denied, another appeal rejected. The latest photos don't show a power player. They show a man trying not to look defeated by the system he once outmaneuvered. There's a new game now, and Diddy isn't holding the cards. The same network of insiders who once cleaned up his PR disasters have gone missing. A few industry allies, names like Usher and Russell Simmons, put out platitudes about forgiveness and moving on. Others reportedly are lawyering up or waiting for subpoenas. With every new rumor, from Illuminati symbols on sweatpants to whispers about government deals, the question deepens. If Diddy was talking, what did he say, and how much does the government still want from him? Old partners are silent, former artists stay distant, and even family appearances seem more calculated than sincere. The ecosystem that once kept his business thriving now looks like it's circling, waiting to see who goes down next.
He was responsible for Diddy's day-to-day life, so he is able to provide a lot of information about what that life was like. He goes into detail on extensive use.
Meanwhile, the stories get darker. Sources inside MDC say that while Diddy has extra security in the special housing unit, that isolation only buys him time, not safety. Guards can only watch so much. Suge claims the worst thing that can happen to a man like Diddy isn't being ignored, it's being noticed by the wrong people. On the inside, snitch isn't just an insult, it's a challenge. Diddy's alleged role as an informant, if true, means that any protection he gets from the system is as much a threat as it is a shield. Inmates with long memories and nothing to lose can make every day a trial of its own. Outside the prison walls, the case has stirred up more than nostalgia for the old hip-hop beefs. Jay-Z scrubbing his online footprint, Beyoncé fans bombarding comment sections with questions about parties and industry secrets. These are just the surface ripples. Media insiders claim that Diddy's trial has kicked open a door the music business kept shut for decades. There's talk that more indictments could come, that the government isn't finished digging. Documentaries are already in production, and every call from inside the industry is suddenly off the record. As Suge Knight continues to call out the silence from former bad boy artists and others who benefited from Diddy's rise, the sense grows that we're only hearing the start of the real story. Nobody's coming forward, and that silence may be its own kind of testimony.
Did you ever spend time with the guy? Did you ever meet Diddy?
I've met him before, yeah.
How was he?
Very nice guy, very smart, super business. You know, I mean, he's very successful.
As for Diddy, we're left watching a transformation that no hit record or public apology can erase. The man who once controlled the narrative now waits for scraps of news, legal updates, or another lawyer willing to take his call. Every move is dissected: the resignation of his attorney, the latest family statement, the cryptic posts from those still on his payroll. When Suge Knight laughs about Diddy's presidential campaign for sympathy and calls his sentence a gift from friends in high places, we can't help but wonder if the whole spectacle was stage managed from the start. Was Diddy's downfall a slow-motion crash, or just another chapter in the long, strange history of Hollywood self-preservation? If Suge Knight is right, Diddy didn't escape punishment, he just changed his jailers. And maybe that's the grimmest irony, trading fame for notoriety, allies for interrogators, and a mansion for a cell where even bread has to be hoarded. Now, as federal investigators quietly circle and former associates weigh loyalty against survival, we're left with one final question. Is this really the end of the bad boy era? Or are we only seeing the first act of a saga that could take down half of Hollywood? So what do you think? Is Diddy just paying the price, or is there still a secret deal waiting to explode? Drop your thoughts below. Until the next bombshell, keep your eyes open, your phone charged, and your friends closer than ever. This is the world behind the headlines, and you never know who's really listening.